Right. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us for another WKS Zoom podcast. This time I'm with Bruce Jordan, who is a member of a band called Jonah's Lift. How are you doing?
Hi all. Yeah, I'm very good, thanks. Hope you're all well out there. Missing seeing you all, of course.
Yes. Whereabouts are you based then as a band?
Well, the band is loosely based in Falmouth, but members are, I suppose, within about a 25-mile radius.
Right.
We've got one who lives on a boat in Falmouth Harbour, one who lives in the middle of nowhere up near Blackwater. I'm in the Lizard, Rosie's in Hale, Steve's in Falmouth. So
okay. We should say that we might get other members joining in as we go along. We may not. We don't know yet, do we? So
no. It's always a funny time, even with lockdowns at mid-afternoon.
Yes. Yeah.
Some work.
So, where did Jonah's Lift start then?
Ooh, it's a good question. I mean, it's been going 13 or 14 years, depending who you talk to. And it originally sort of came out of a band called the Sex Slaves from Hell.
Okay.
Wonderful name. But Wayne, who is our pirate, and Kaylee Caller plays Baran and a few other things, he did some sound engineering work with the Sex Slaves. And when that all finished, he and the rest of the band bought all their gear. Okay. And so it's a very loose connection from there, and it's been going ever since.
Okay, how would you describe your music then?
Broadly, folk rock. That covers a multitude of sins. But we take anything from traditional folk, rock ballad covers, Eastern European tunes, stick it all in a big pot, stir it around and see what falls out.
Okay. How many members are there then in
well, there's 6 of us. I play bass, and although I can sing, being a gentleman, I choose not to. We've got Richard, who is our drummer, Steve, who plays whistles, clarinet, sings, and occasionally plays guitar. Jesse, who is the main singer and guitarist. Wayne, who plays Baran, whistles, sings, generally acts the fool, dresses as a pirate, and he actually is our caller when we do Kayleys as well. Right. And Rosie, who is our fiddle player and who also has a cracking voice, that we need to encourage her to use it a bit more.
Okay, lovely.
I mean, Rosie has only been in the band since mid-March. She joined, I think it was 2 weeks before the first lockdown.
Okay.
So it's been quite difficult for her. We did manage one socially distanced gig in early September in Richard's garden, and we just did an hour. And so that's the only gig she's done so far.
So how's with the lockdown musically, how's it sort of affected you guys then?
It's been difficult. I mean, like all bands and musicians everywhere, I mean, it's just disappeared overnight. We were lucky in the summer when things started easing, because Jessie lives, I say, in the middle of nowhere, but she's got a very large garden. So we used to meet there, rehearse around her fire pit, which was quite nice.
Yeah.
And then when the lockdown eased a little bit more, we were rehearsing in the back room of a pub in Penryn. But just before Christmas, of course, that all had to stop. So it's struggling. We did toy with the idea of using things like Zoom and whatever to try and rehearse, but it didn't work. It was just too many latency issues.
Yeah. You'd have thought that, I mean, so a lot of musicians are using the internet to do this sort of stuff. And I know somebody has mentioned to me there are various Zoom settings that you can alter that actually make it a little bit better for musicians. But I think, Zoom really should have got it together by now, because obviously a big proportion is going to be
Yeah.
musicians, so
Yeah.
we'll have to
I
wait
mean,
and see.
looking on things like YouTube and Facebook, quite quite a number of musicians are actually managing it.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
but also
there are.
that depends on a myriad other factors, your connectivity,
Yeah,
environment, etc.,
yeah.
etc.
And I think it can be, to get that perfect sound that you're after, it can be quite expensive as well. So,
Yeah, yeah.
that's another factor. Have you, as a band then, have you got any music out there at the moment on, social sites or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you go onto YouTube, there is loads and loads, and it goes back, I think, to 2013.
Okay.
The entire gig we did in early September is up on there, which is
Okay.
quite interesting. We've got a SoundCloud page, and of course the ubiquitous Facebook.
Yes. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's out there.
Okay, yeah, because what I normally do, excuse me, what I normally do is choose a couple of videos from YouTube and put them in a section on the on WKS that's called like tunes from the interview.
Mhm.
So if anybody, then they can find those and then go on off to seek if they want more. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So is there any two that you prefer me to put up, or shall I just choose two myself?
Yeah, to be honest, you choose a couple that you
Okay.
think.
Okay.
The ones on YouTube were actually taken from the back of the mixing desk, and so the quality, some of them, the quality's a little bit
Okay.
odd. I mean, you can always go to SoundCloud and pick off a couple of the tracks from the EP, although they don't have the fiddle and the drummer
Right.
on them.
I'm sure I'll find something. I'll
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
looking. So how?
I mean, our version of Liquid Lunch has been getting a little bit of play. There's Devil's Dance Floor, Turkish Song of the Damned, which as well. I mean, all of these have got our own take on things, so they're not just straight covers.
Right. So for yourself, talking about yourself now, when did it start for you musically then? What age were you when you started to play?
5.
5. Okay.
Yeah.
What
So,
instrument was
yeah,
it?
just a couple of years ago.
What instrument was it then?
I started on piano,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then, which in those days was really quite common. Most houses had an old upright, and it's very much a generational thing. And then when I went to secondary school, I took up violin as well. Fortunately, I don't play that anymore. Last time I tried was many years ago, and our then cat let out a very anguished howl and ran off. I took that as a hint.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So did you go to like music school or anything like
Yes,
that?
I
Or
did in the
you
end.
did? Okay.
I went to Huddersfield
Okay.
and studied piano, violin, followed, and believe it or not, singing.
Okay.
And then I went down to Trent Park College of Education in Middlesex, well, High Barnet, did a teacher training course, also picked up double bass while I was down there. But that was purely because I've been playing bass guitar since I was 11. And I thought, yeah, it can't be too difficult to pick up double bass. And at one point, because the whole course was geared towards class music, we tried to simulate a children's orchestra. So we all had to play our third study instrument. So it was great.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Double bass.
Brilliant. So which artists have sort of been the main influence for you then in music?
The first one that comes to mind is Jack Bruce. Being the sort of young, impressionable lad I was, if you remember the good old days of New Musical Express,
Yes, the enemy. Yeah.
It did a feature one day on Jack Bruce saying, "Bruce, the world's greatest bass player." So I cut that out and had it on my bedroom wall.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah.
And the other big influence as a bass player was J.S. Bach.
Mm. Okay.
I've heard a lot of musicians say that some of his bassline work is absolutely fabulous, and I often used to use that as a play along.
Wow.
Um,
Brilliant.
but otherwise, I think as you get older, your tastes become broader for a start. Whether that's to do with an absence of peer pressure or anything like that, I don't know. As you know, when you're a teenager, you are very focused on
Yes.
things, and things tend to be very black and white. But as I've got older and played in different types of bands, whatever type band I'm playing in, I tend to listen to music of that genre
Right.
and see where it takes me. And so with Jonah being very heavily folk orientated and that having that Eastern European influence, I've dabbled a lot in that and found some fantastic music that I'd never dreamed of listening to.
Superb. Superb. So, any artist, alive or dead, who would you like most to collaborate with?
Oh, there's a band in St. Petersburg called Atava Yo.
Okay.
They're a Russian folk band. No, I don't speak Russian, and when they get into some of the quite heavy traditional Russian folk, I'm lost. But I love the music, the way they come across, their approach to it. They are actually very similar in some way to ourselves in the way they organise and arrange their music. They're not for everybody, but that's who I listen to most at the moment. And then there's also a Polish, I suppose you'd call them a klezmer group called Croak.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant band.
Yeah, they are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Superb. Okay, so talking to a younger version of yourself now. Okay, way back. What bit of advice, would you give yourself?
Keep practicing and have an open mind. The two most important things. Every single musician you listen to can give you something. We all subconsciously absorb elements, and I've got the greatest respect for anybody who actually gets up and does it. Yeah, sure, that there's better musicians than me, there's worse musicians than me, but the fact that they're doing it and we can all learn from each other.
Brilliant. Absolutely superb. So
it sounds a bit like a hippie ideal, doesn't it?
No, not at all. I mean, it's your experience of it, and superb. So do you, as a band, do original material, or
we have some original songs, not many, but because we tend to use the phrase mash a lot of tunes, we take some traditional folk tunes, we might squash a bit of a rock song in there. I mean, we do a well-known jig, Kesh jig, which you may have heard of. I think every folk band in the world does it. There's 3 separate tunes within that set, but we link them, one with the bass riff from Deep Purple, Earth. Can't remember what it's called now. Smoke on the Water. And link the next one with The Chain.
Okay. Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of.
Okay.
There's an original track on the CD called Days Like These that Jesse wrote, but that morphs into from dueling banjos, and then we go into Flowers of Edinburgh, which is a very traditional Scottish tunes.
Brilliant. Okay.
The originality is can be a little bit of a vague.
Yeah.
I mean, not an original as bands in the sense that we write every single note ourselves, but hopefully the way we approach things is uniquely us.
Brilliant. So what would you say the most useless talent you have?
The most useless talent?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't go in for useless talent.
You don't yourself personally, you know something that you do that people go, that's amazing, but completely useless.
I don't know. I think the fact I've still got my own teeth and what's left of my hair and stand up there is.
It's a funny question. I ask quite a few people that, and then they, I get some good answers, but and quite often
that harks back to the days of job interview questions.
Yeah. Or the other one I can ask is, what's the most trouble you've ever gotten into?
Ooh, this is a family show.
I ask that question and I get some good answers. Yeah, I do say you don't have to go into detail of prisons and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, we digress.
But Craig, we're musicians. We lead blameless,
exactly,
spotless lives.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you could open up a show for any artist, apart from the two you've mentioned or bands, who would you go for?
My initial preference would be once again at RVO, but that might be problematic because we are similar.
Okay.
The other one I think I'd love to would be Police Dog Hogan.
New on me.
You've never heard of?
No.
I don't know whether you read The Guardian or not, but they have a columnist called Tim Downing, and he's the banjo player.
Okay.
With them, but
right.
Check them out on YouTube.
Yeah, I will actually. Yes. Yeah. So what's next then for Jonah's Lift? What's the plans when we come out of lockdown?
Get gigging.
Yeah.
As much as we can. I mean, we also had plans to record an album this year, but I think that's probably going to be put on hold.
Okay.
We've obviously got to make sure Rosie is well up to speed with everything in the whole set. We've got 5 or 6 new numbers coming in that we've rehearsed, but they need road testing, and the only way to do that is
do it.
Gigging.
Yeah.
See how it goes, but I think it's the answer you'll get from most musicians who just want to get back out.
Yes. Yeah, I think that is the overwhelming thing. I mean, a lot are doing, the before the lockdown, they were part of the way doing an album and they've had to shut it down, so they're going to carry on,
Otherwise, in the meantime, we're just trying to keep the name alive. Harking back to the gig we did back in September, I think we said we put one video up a week, so there was 12, 13 weeks where we were just keeping our name and presence out there. Fortunately as well, we're getting a lot of internet radio exposure from a station up in North Somerset called Summer Valley FM, where the presenter Tim saw us at St Ives Harbour Pool Club a couple of years ago. It was blown away. Brilliant. So he plays us fairly regularly. Radio Scarborough in Yorkshire, which in fact is my hometown, there's a presenter there who I was in a band with when I was 11, and he plays us virtually every week, and we did a 50-minute, hour-long interview with him, which went out on Friday.
Brilliant.
We've been picked up by Ian
Semple.
Yeah.
Ian Semple down at Coast, yeah.
Yeah, so he's playing us, I believe, this
Yeah,
weekend.
that's right. Brilliant.
Source FM played us the other weekend, and there's a lady called Hannah Cumming who is now on Lyme Regis or Lyme Bay Radio, I think, who
Right.
hopefully is going to play us. So it's
Superb. Absolutely superb.
You've just got to keep working at it.
Okay. Right. Final question.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't you. I ask everybody this. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for you being here musically now?
Well, I suppose initially, probably everyone says this as well. It has to be my mother for getting me going on piano. My late piano teacher, one called Arthur Costain, who was also an organist, but for opening my eyes to music. And he used to do a lot of recitals because he was a church an organist rather as well. So I used to go along when I was 8 or 9, turn the pages for him. He'd let me dabble on the organ, even though my feet could hardly reach the pedals. But he would listen to anything, try anything. So I owe him a huge debt. And I suppose if I've got any regret, I never actually got the chance to thank him for that. And then virtually for every musician I've come along and I've had the privilege and pleasure with, and anybody else who knows me.
Yes, lovely. Bruce, look, thank you so much for giving me the time, and good luck with Jonah's Lift and any plans you've got.
Yeah, that's worth it. Thank you, Craig. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you. I'm sorry the rest of the mob didn't join us, but that's probably just as well.
No worries.
Not quite as chaotic as it would have been.
Right. Well, thank you very much, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks a lot, Craig.
No worries. Bye.
Bye.